provide financial support that will help lessen the burdens that drug and alcohol abusers, the HIV positive individuals, and the mentally ill place on our criminal justice system. One of the most serious problems facing our criminal justice system is the large number of incarcerated offenders that have behavioral health problems. And it's not just Hinds County, it's all across this state. County detention centers are forced to care for individuals who have committed crimes because of a mental illness. The same offenders contribute to jail overcrowding, they overload the probation departments, and most often they are mixed in with the prison population, notwithstanding that detention centers are ill-equipped to properly care for the mentally ill. Some of these offenders are not only mentally ill, but as stated earlier, they have a dual diagnosis of drug and alcohol abuse, and again, others have been identified with HIV. In Hinds County, we have experienced a significant increase in the mentally ill population, along with substantial increase in medical costs, such as physician services, pharmaceuticals, and oftentimes we have to hospitalize the mentally ill. Counties are in desperate need for additional funding. We need more leverage in working with mental health agencies, and these agencies need additional funding. We all need the ability to provide for long-term and short-term treatments and also alternatives to providing care. I have talked with members of the Chancery Court, the Sheriff's Department, and Circuit Court. These departments also have to deal with individuals that have been incarcerated because of a crime. And oftentimes the Chancery Courts have to deal with families who have loved ones that have become uncontrollable because of a mental illness. This morning we have with us Judge Tommy Green.
Amen.
Who has really worked with this board to reduce medical costs for the mentally ill that are incarcerated. She also recognizes the seriousness of the mental health issues that we have to deal with constantly on a daily basis, and probably knows more about how to handle some of the situations that we have, and also if she has solutions to help us as a board to deal with the problems that, again, we face on a daily basis. I was really enlightened and encouraged by some of the solutions that she has to offer. So this morning, Judge Green is here to share with us a wealth of knowledge. Judge Green, please come forward.
Good morning. And for those I've not seen, Happy New Year. Thank you, Supervisor Calhoun, to the board this morning. I had intended to address the issue of mental health and the problems we have and some of the solutions we developed here in Hinds County beginning mid-year last year. I wanted to present, and I think we've gotten to all of the supervisors, a resolution to the Board of Supervisors on behalf of the circuit judges in Hinds County. And it is a resolution that we anticipated will be presented along with the Board of Supervisors to the Mississippi Legislature. Because we're suffering not just in Hinds County, as Supervisor Calhoun has said, we are suffering across the state with persons who are lingering in our jails who have mental or behavioral health problems. It became clear to me several years ago that people who have these problems cannot, not that they do not want to, but cannot comply with the laws of the land because their mind is of a different mindset than the average individual. We oftentimes use pretty words to characterize their condition. We say they are mentally challenged. We say they have behavioral problems. We say they are mentally ill. But certainly there are individuals who do not have the capacity to comply with the laws, and they end up coming into our criminal justice system and the civil system, and they are clogging the courts, but they also living in Hinds County jails. And if there is a concern about why there's a cost in Hinds County jail, especially for medical, I can tell you that mental health and physical conditions are a lot of the problem. We do have a couple of things to bring to the board's attention that will be addressed, I'm sure, with medical assurance and what they can provide to us. I'd like to ask the board for permission to be joined here at the podium by Lieutenant Mary Russian, who has worked with me in terms of the mental health program, but also individuals who are ill, and can give you some idea of what we are having to spend in the Hinds County Jail for medical problems and also for mental health. And to be honest, if you check your budgets, you see what we are paying out to medical assurance for medical care in Hinds County is exceeded not just by the need for psychiatric care for the persons arrested, but it exceeds the medical costs. But we are paying them as physicians to take care of the entire jail. We are just about paying in medical costs and psychiatric expenses. I met with Ms. Davis, Carmen Davis, I guess about mid-year, because I saw the problem, and we didn't have anything in the budget to deal with the issue of medical care and the constitutionality of keeping people in jail who are sick because they can't make bond. We bond out murderers, we bond out people who are charged with armed carjacking. People who can afford to pay bond get back out on the street. Sick people don't. There's something unconstitutional about it, and this county will one day have to address it unless we are progressive. A couple of weeks ago in the newspaper, I think Mississippi was at the bottom of the chart in terms of providing mental health and violations of the Constitution for keeping mentally ill people in the jail. In December, along with the help of medical assurance and Carmen Davis and the jail personnel at that time was just one individual, and that was Ms. Russian. If you will, come and join me, because she helped me understand what the problem was, and the solution was so simple, I was ashamed. First of all, that as a judge, I sat here for 12 years and no one told me or advised me that we had a psychiatrist and a psychologist employed by the county. Whitfield is not taking our patients. We can't get them there for evaluation for 1 to 2 years. And for 1 to 2 years, you pay the cost of those individuals in the jail, all of their high-priced drugs, every trip to the hospital. We were We were taking people with cancer to radiation 3 and 4 times a week. People with dialysis were being taken by the sheriff to dialysis 3 times a week. These are people that the Constitution presumes are innocent. These are pre-trial individuals that we were keeping in our jail. Our jail is not a hospital. It is not a medical center. It is a place to hold individuals, and they stay there until they can make bond, and they're supposed to be out. But I'm just saying, I don't know how long I'll be here or you'll be here, but Hinds County will bite a bullet eventually. And when the federal government says that we got to do differently, it's not going to matter whether you got money in the budget or not. This state will have to comply. So what we're doing now is progressive, and I wanted to advise the board of what we are doing. I have sent to the board the resolution, and I won't labor things this morning by reading the resolution, but it is a prayer to the legislature to provide us some money in Hinds County. We are the most populous county in the state. I'm not sure why people don't want to fund things here in Hinds County or want to make Hinds County be the worst county in the state. But crisis centers were developed for every county or other county, and no crisis center was put here in Hinds County. As such, if a male is half-dressed, standing on a corner in Hinds County, and he's exposing himself because his mind is not right, then the police officer's only option is to arrest that person and take them to jail and charge them with a crime. If there were crisis centers or hospitals that were working with us, that person, like any other sick person, whether they had been shot or stabbed, would be taken to the hospital. But instead of taking them to hospital, we take them to jail, and we are paying the cost. And I'm not talking about minimum costs. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical costs and in psychotropic drugs that these persons have to take for as long as they can't make bond, which oftentimes is years. We did start a pilot program with no money December 1, and we have 10 people that we have found that have behavioral mental health problems, that we have set up a system to transport them out of jail, either ROR or with minimum bond, place them on house arrest, and start them in programs in the community along with medical assurance that assesses them and tells us what their condition is, and then sets up a program with social workers that will help them get the medical care and the medical costs that they would have if they weren't in jail, and thus relieve the county of the cost of paying for medicine and for psychiatric treatment for years, because that's how long they are staying there. The program we anticipate will handle anywhere from 50 to 60 people who come into the system. If we don't handle them, they'll be out this year, and they'll be back next year, if not next month. So those are the kinds of things that we're doing with the pilot program. I'll be glad to individually discuss exactly what it is that we are doing specifically, but I can tell you right now, we have 2 bachelor level social workers, and in order for the program to work in the assessment, we will have to have 2 master level social workers in the program. And I think that we can accommodate that with the board's help. We'll place some monies up front in the program, but in the long run, I think it will benefit the board, the county, and its citizens. I'll give you a clear example of what we put in place with Ms. Davis' help. We had, at least I think, Ms. Davis, you can correct me if I'm wrong, 12 people who either had cancer, severe diabetes. We had one man in a wheelchair with 2 holes in, quote, his butt. We had individuals who had heart problems, who had been in and out of the hospital because they are under the detention center. And in 2 days, we sat down, did background searches Most of the individuals had committed no crimes against persons, but they were locked up, and set up a system where I issued an order, and you'll see the order in your file, and it's called the medical bond order, where we reduce bond, put them on house arrest. You have a contract with probation services. They began monitoring these individuals. They returned home and awaited trial there. If they were on Medicaid or private insurance, then that's who paid the bill and not the county. We were able to do that and reduce the cost in Hinds County $250,000 over 3 to 4 months with those individuals outside of the system awaiting trial instead of on the county. We are trying to do that with mental health, but because of the behavioral problems and the mental problems, we can't move them as fast. This board was led to believe that there was some communication going on with judges in terms of moving inmates who were sick. Nobody was telling this judge or any other judge that I'm aware of, unless it was a senior judge at that time, that anybody was sick. From what I understand, they would go to the DA, and if the DA didn't want to reduce bond, it never got back to the judges. That process no longer exists. I began to work with Mary Russian. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
For Mr. Stokes.
Yes, sir.
Judge, I want to thank you number one for your leadership.
Yes, sir.
Because what you bring in to this body is going to help us save money.
It is.
And I want to give you an example. Now, you telling us exactly what's happening in this community. I'm going to give you a face to that picture. The little young man on our street, named Derrick Jack, still in jail.
Yes, sir.
Now, he was going to Hinds County behavior, medical, whatever it's called. For some reason, they stopped seeing him. He stopped taking his medicine.
Yes, sir.
And that's what you're saying. Most of them stopped taking their medicine. And consequently, he ended up killing his best friend. Well, we know it's a mental problem. But for him to be in jail, for us to pay for medicine, and for us to pay for everything else, is bad. Because if we had him on house arrest and made sure that he was taking his medicine, that means there's expenses that this county wouldn't have to absorb.
That's what we began in December of last year. As a matter of fact, it was about December 15th before we got the first people in. But it is to keep these individuals on medication, because the statistics and the data shows that if they stay on medicine, they are not committing offenses. And that's where we're moving to. But let me add a large caveat, because I don't want anybody to go back and say that we are releasing people. If the individual is a safety risk, they don't go into the program. That's determined by each judge. Nor can I make a judge send people to the program. The judge has to make an initial assessment and then determine whether they ask me to reassign them to the program. I will tell you this, that as senior judge, everyone who hasn't been indicted, I handle, which is the bulk of your people. With the new public defender, we hope to get them when they're first arrested and in city court or county court. We hope to make a report back to you by the middle of the year in terms of the program and the cost saving. But right now, all Major Russian, and I talked with the Sheriff Lewis, and he has agreed to work with me and the attorneys and the DA's office in terms of implementing the program. But right now, what happens is if someone appears at the jail, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it could be 8 o'clock in the morning, it could be 12 o'clock in the morning. She simply picks up the phone and calls me and lets me know the condition, and I set bond at that time and do the release.
Okay, I have another question
Yes,
from Mr. Fisher.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
we've got a number of things this board seems to be sending to the legislature requesting funds for.
Yes, sir.
And I think at some point we're going to overload the vote.
Yes, sir.
But my question to you is this. You had mentioned the psychiatrists and the psychologists that we have on.
We have, yes.
Do those positions, under this program, do those positions go away?
No, sir.
So we
Those
still have that
positions are
expense.
part of what we have now as a medical assurance. Medical assurance was only providing medical care. The psychiatrists and psychologists, this county paid through the share. Those individuals were just basically medicating the patient. Whitfield will do the evaluation.
So what you're saying is basically those positions would remain. Just bringing this crisis center online does not eliminate those positions.
Oh, no, that's what medical assurance has to have for the program.
And the rest of my question is, you mentioned many thousands of dollars. Do you have an exact amount of what this crisis center would save Hinds County?
Well, it's not a crisis center. It is a program that shifts those individuals out into the community to centers that are already in existence. But the assessment is done by the medical assurance who does the medical care for the county, and they have, as a part of their program, the psychiatrists, the psychologists, and the social workers. The only thing is we've got to have 2 master level. But I have Lieutenant Russian here. She has a list she brought this morning. I apologize that I didn't get a copy, but we can present it to the county administrator, and she can copy it. And what she has is the actual individuals, the medication, and the cost just for 1 month. And that was from December to January. And I think from that, Supervisor Fisher, you'll be able to see what we are spending on these individuals that we are keeping in jail. And do know that it won't be any murderers or anybody getting on the street. We are screening these individuals carefully to make sure that they are individuals that we can monitor. And MDOC has committed an entire probation officer to this that the county doesn't pay for.
Yeah, I guess I was confused. I used the term crisis center because you mentioned that Hinds County was not given a crisis center.
We don't.
So you're not talking about a crisis center here. You're talking
about a health program like drug court, but it's just for mentally ill. We don't have a crisis center.
Okay, and you don't have an idea at this point of initial startup costs or what it will save the county other than first interpolate versus 1 month's numbers?
In terms of
how much it will save?
Oh, well, yeah, you can go through your own process, but if you would, you can pass that to them and just give them an idea of what we are paying and what we put people into the program.
Okay, one of the things we'd like to go ahead and do this, I think, is come to a point where we can, if there's a motion that you want to make, Judge, once we get through with this.
It's to accept the resolution on behalf of the 7th Circuit Court of Hinds County for the state of Mississippi to support a request to the legislature to revisit the issue of funding for mental health programs here in Hinds County to include a crisis center.
Okay, it's been moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Now, additional discussion as it relates to this issue, Mr. Pitcher.
So you do want a crisis center?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
And in that crisis center system, hopefully we'll get a hospital whose obligation is to provide back to the community. We have all these hospitals and nobody's providing anything back. But hopefully that crisis center will work with one of the hospitals that they will automatically take our people.
Okay, additional questions from the board? Mrs. Calhoun?
If you would carry the motion,
Okay.
and then I'll make the point.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded. Any other additional questions? All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to? Motion passes.
Let me just
Please
say,
let the clerk read the order first, and then we'll go directly to Ms. Calhoun.
Resolved to approve on behalf of the 7th Circuit Court District, Hinds County, for the state of Mississippi, requesting legislation in support of funding to assist counties in providing mental health care for incarcerated individuals with behavioral problems, the ongoing development of a mental and behavioral health treatment program / court and for referral alternatives.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Calhoun.
thank you, Mr. President. Let me just say, Ms. Woods can provide you with the actual expenses for mentally dealing with the mentally ill and the medical costs as compared to the savings that we are now realizing. But also, I want to say that we hope to go forward to our state legislature, again, with a collaborative effort. We've talked with our Chancery Court Judge, Sheriff Lewis earlier on. We talked with the former sheriff, and I have called your office also to schedule an appointment regarding the same. issue. But hopefully, the Sheriff's Association, your state Sheriff's Association, the Mississippi Association of Supervisors, along with our Circuit Court Conference, and that is one of the reasons Judge Green is presenting her resolution this morning. But also on behalf of this board, I have a resolution that I'm going to request approval of. And again, our resolution is being presented to strongly encourage legislative initiatives to be considered in the 2012 Mississippi Legislature session in support of providing funding for the mentally ill. Or hopefully the legislature will also provide alternatives that we can utilize, such as working with the various agencies that are out in the community. And as has been mentioned, county jails are not supposed to become mental institutions, and that's exactly what we're becoming when we're housing many mentally ill individuals that should be hospitalized or at least being provided some type of medical treatment. We are more and more every day becoming asylums and homes for the mentally ill. And to me, that is very inhumane and lacks compassion. This morning, Mr. President, I present our resolution.
Okay, you're going to do it in the form of a motion at this point?
Yes, I'm so moved.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. We'll go to Mr. Fisher for questions related to this that you'd like to speak on.
Well, just a financial figures. If you multiply the 12 months times the $14,967 per year, and this information she gave us, a financial figure is $180,000, just a tad under $180,000 a year. Which is,
that's just a medication.
If I think $35,000 a year for ink and toner is a lot of money, $180,000 is sky high out there. So, but just I know we talked about money, so that's just sort of a rough starting figure.
Right.
And it's your thought that this would be saved by the county and would be placed on the state. Is that correct?
No, some of it will be placed on the medical providers that the individuals had prior to arrest. The moment they come into the jail, they don't bill the medical providers anymore.
Okay, it's been moved and properly second. We've had additional discussion. Mr. Stokes, I believe, did the second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor of?
Aye.
Opposed to? Motion passes. Will the clerk please read the order from Mrs. Calhoun, or do you have a copy of the resolution?
The resolution of the Hinds County Board of Supervisors requesting legislation in support of funding to assist counties in providing mental health care for incarcerated individuals with behavioral problems, the development of behavioral health treatment for collaborative and/or referral alternatives.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have only
Judge Green.
to be very quick because I'm aware of your valuable time. I brought Ms. Russian here. I have talked with Sheriff Lewis. Is he here this morning? And I have been very pleased. He is supportive and has provided Ms. Russian to work with both programs. Sometimes we forget that it's not those of us who are elected officials who really make this county run. Ms. Russian has, and I wanted the board to be aware that she has done that, but that's with the support also of Sheriff Lewis, so that if those cases do appear, oftentimes it's difficult to get to the judge on the bench, but Mary Russian is a person that you can also call, or the sheriff's office, to get to them, because she knows who's there and can get that information to me, because my cell phone has her name in it, and when it comes across, regardless of the time, I'm going to make sure that we work to make sure that we don't have a $500,000 medical case that's sitting down there. I don't look at it as a medical cost because as a judge, that's not my job. My job is to make sure that we run things constitutionally and in accordance with the law, and that we do not have inhumane treatment going on in Hinds County. And I think